Hi guys, welcome back to Design 305. Today we're going to be creating custom brushes in Adobe Illustrator. You might wonder, why is creating a custom brush important? Well, we want to be able to create a custom stroke on a path that we create. Again, why might I want to do this? The reason we're going to do this is because we're going to be creating a bike trail map, and we want each of our trails to have their own unique characteristics. And we don't want to just use solid color, so we're going to create our own brushes to stroke our paths. So it has our own unique touch to it, and we can design it as we feel necessary. Let's get started. Let's get started in Illustrator. First thing we're going to do after launching the program is create a new canvas. And I'm going to start with a canvas that's 5 inches by 5 inches. And let's recap of what I'm hoping you know how to do before you start with this is to use the pen tool to create a path. Right now, this path is being stroked in black. If I wanted to change the color, I would use the selection tool, select the path, change the color of the stroke. Could also increase the stroke weight or how wide the stroke is. And there are a few other options that you might be familiar with, but those are the main ones we've talked about in class. When we do our bike trail map, we don't want all of our lines to be a solid color. We need to use more of a symbol. So we need to create some brushes that have a symbol to them. So let's get started in creating a new brush. I'm going to use my elliptical tool, and I'm holding the shift key down, and I'm going to create a perfect circle. And I'm going to go ahead and make the fill color yellow, the stroke color blue. I'm going to make my stroke not quite so wide, and I'm actually going to play around with my brush a little bit. Just think that blue is a little too bold. I like the idea. I'm going to use that chalk brush. Right now I'm just shrinking my circle, and I think something like that will work well. So this is what I want my brush to be that is going to follow the path that I create. And that's what I'm really hoping you learn from this lesson, is how to create a new brush that you can use as a stroke. So I'm going to take the creation that I have right here, and I'm just going to drag it over to my brush column, my brush window. If your brush window isn't open, you can go to Window and then click on Brush. So under my new brush, I'm going to go ahead and click Pattern Brush, and you can see I now have my brush options, and at this point I'm just going to go ahead and say OK, although I would encourage you to experiment with those settings. I'm now going to take my pen tool and create my path, and right now this path actually has the same settings as my brush does. So I'm going to change those. I'm going to turn my fill to off, leave my stroke as blue, and I'm actually going to come over here and use my new brush that I made as my stroke. And you can see this is the look that we get. Still able to use the opacity if I want to lower the opacity or increase it again, just to maybe possibly not make it quite as bold. So let's just review that again. Maybe I want to create one that's going to be a polygon. Let me go ahead and drag my polygon, and maybe I want it to be a red stroke this time, and maybe I want to use, don't like that color combination. Maybe a blue fill and a green stroke, and I'm going to increase the thickness of that stroke. I think I'm trying to get too creative here. Let's give that a try. That'll just give us a different symbol to look with. I really did like the chalk Yes, I think something like this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take that, I'm going to drag it to my brush, creating a new pattern brush. Again, I'm going to leave the settings the same, the options, but I do encourage you to experiment with those. Come back, make my path. Again, it has the settings that I used when I created my brush. So I will need to come back and select it, turn my fill off, and pick my new pattern brush. And there you have it, and that's how you can actually make some custom lines in Illustrator. Let's just take a look at how we are going to apply this in class. And if you recall from us talking in class, we are going to have multiple maps. And you can see this is kind of the one we were looking at in class, and it's not reading too well. So we want to look at how we can improve that. But you can see our brushes are not appearing in this document. So let's take a look at what we would need to do. From the document that we were working on when we created our brushes, we created 2 new brush symbols. What we actually need to do is we need to come down here and we need to save our brushes. And I'm going to go ahead and save these in my documents, and I'm going to call these bike map brushes. And then when I come back over to my bike map, I can actually go to my other library, go to my document, and I can come down, and I'm going to come to bike map brushes and hit open, and the brushes that I created have loaded in. So I could actually take a path that I've already created. Maybe I would take the path of just these yellow dots. It's kind of hard to see, you're kind of limited with contrast, and maybe I want to replace those with my first pattern brush, the yellow with the blue strokes. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to my layers, and I am going to find, alright, so I've found the layer that it's on. I'm going to make sure it's on loft. I'm going to have it selected. So I have my path selected, and I'm going to click on my pattern. Now I can see that my pattern doesn't look quite as I expected. It's a little stretched out and funny, and we'll actually talk about how we can adjust that and what setting changes we will need to make. But that gives you an introduction to how you can create your own brushes that you can use to stroke lines, and then you can see how we're going to apply them, but you can see there are some settings that we need to take a look at. So when you come into class tomorrow, please go ahead and open up Illustrator and get started on making some new pattern brushes. You might want to think about between now and class tomorrow what you might want some of your different trails to look like. You will need 9 different trails. Can't wait to see you tomorrow or the next day. Have a good one.